Public Affairs programming on WQPT is brought to you by the Singh Group at Merrill Lynch, serving the wealth management needs of clients in the region for over 25 years.
Welcome to The Wall That Heals, a replica of the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C. that has found a place in the cities. Behind me is a wall inscribed with 58,000 names of people wounded in the Vietnam War and died. It is a replica of the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C. that has found its place in the cities. As part of our Enhancing the Military initiative, WQPT, with the help of Unity Point Health Trinity and supported by dozens of local businesses and organizations, has brought this moving tribute to the Western Illinois University Quad Cities campus. It comes complete with a mobile education center and special programs and presentations from now until Sunday afternoon's closing ceremonies. Tonight, what it took to bring this 250-foot wall here to the cities. We begin with my interview with the general manager of WQPT, Mary Press. Are you at all surprised at how realistic the replica is?
It's, it's smaller because I have been to Washington, D.C., but it has everyone's name that is on the main memorial in Washington, D.C., and it looks just like it. And so I think that people who are wanting that kind of experience where they can connect with friends of their youth, family members, people that they served with, will feel the power of that memorial here as well.
The memorial, of course, has that stark blackness against the green of the Washington, D.C. Mall, which is really something that's symbolic and eye-catching. But let's be honest, it really is all about the names. Absolutely, and that is the power of that memorial. It's the recognition that our country sacrificed so many of our young youth, both men and women. Well, you're looking at 58,000. I mean, it started off with fewer than that, but it's now up to 58,000 names that have been etched on that wall over the course of, since what, 1982, 1984, when it was first put up in Washington, D.C. Why did WQPT want to bring this to the Quad Cities? It's part of embracing our military outreach that we've been doing. This is our 4th year that we've been doing this, and so there's a lot of elements in the last 4 years that we have been hosting for the community benefit, for the very important military population that is part of the Quad Cities, both with the arsenal, the veterans here, the military suppliers, the manufacturing, all of the kinds of connections that this community has to the military. And the fact that in September, very soon, Ken Burns' new series is going to be the Vietnam War. And so we applied to be a site for The Wall That Heals, and we're so happy that we were selected as a site in advance of the program that's coming in September that's going to really talk about the Vietnam War in a way that this country hasn't had a chance to see before. And let's be honest, there's still an active dialogue, even the war is over 50 years ago. I mean, it's still one of the most talked about wars, and of course it's generational. And maybe now after 50 years, we as a country, as a society, can start to have a conversation about what the impact of that period of history has been on our society, and some of the things that have, decisions that have been made, the kinds of public policy that has been enacted since then. And for example, one of the outcomes of that is the Vietnam veterans, were very instrumental in making sure that veterans service was recognized. And now you have people who serve get recognized. And that was because the Vietnam veteran returning home didn't really get that kind of reception. So that's a consequence of that time in our history, and one that we're proud to help salute. Well, this wall's going to have an impact, of course, on different types of people. I'd like to touch on all of them. The veterans families, and the next generation, the children that may come here. Let's talk about the veterans. What do you hope that veterans will get? Because it is called The Wall That Heals. Yeah. Well, we got a call last week from someone who wanted to know how long the wall would be open, and we said it's going to be open 24/7.
And this was a guy who wasn't called up. He could have been. He was, you know, in the lottery, and he could have been called up for service, but he wasn't. And but many of his friends were, and some of them didn't make it home, and they're on the wall. And he wanted to know when it would be open so that he could come at a time that didn't have as much traffic and have a private moment with his buddies. And you can't really make that kind of stuff up. So it's that kind of personal connection to the people that you know that were connected to this conflict. In the opening ceremony that we're having, we have a Gold Star family that's coming, and the mother and daughter team, and the daughter is both of them are going to lay a wreath at the Wall That Heals here in the Quad Cities. The daughter is the daughter of a serviceman that did not come home and never met her father. So it's a real
powerful.
Yeah. And so it's an opportunity for them to recognize who he was and his service that he gave.
As they should.
Yeah.
As they should. What do you want from families, people that may not have a connection to Vietnam War, although everyone seems to know someone, or it is, as you said, personal to each family?
And there is usually in our families, there is someone who did serve. It might be your father, your grandfather, your uncle. So there is a family connection to that time in our history. And it's a time to make that connection with that lost family member and to remember, you know, the whole family and what they gave.
And lastly, the children. I mean, the children of the next generation. They're going to be seeing things that, you know, some of them don't even have history yet. I mean, little kids haven't learned anything about wars, I guess.
Yeah, and a lot of them, you know, the school year runs out before they get to Vietnam in the history books. We do have on Friday a session for educators. So for teachers that want to learn how to teach about this time in our history to their classes, we're hosting a session so they can come and learn about ways to do that.
It is all about education, it seems. I mean, because not only is there a wall, you also have a kind of a mobile historical unit that's here. And you got to be happy because that, you know, really brings some of the issues to the forefront for some of the people who come here to visit.
The Education Center is also going to be open 24/7. And so they will have a chance to connect to this resources that are available through the Wall That Heals. And, you know, if you want like a rubbing on the Vietnam Memorial in D.C., they've got a form you can fill out. And there's a volunteer that's in D.C. that will do rubbings.
Is that so? That's amazing.
And then mail it to you. So yeah, you know, you can actually have, I mean, that's what happens at the Wall in D.C. is that people will take rubbings of their loved one and have that as a memento of that visit, but we can get that through this exhibit.
As you said, this is part of a greater program at WQPT called Embracing the Military. Why did WQPT embrace this concept?
Well, we started with a series that came from PBS that talked about veterans from Afghanistan and Iraq and coming home, and how they were reintegrating into society, and thought that that would be a good way to start a dialogue with our community here and bring all of the people in this community that are resources to veterans together and create a community of resources for veterans. And so we've got, you know, several, I think it's about 100 partners that are part of this initiative, and some of them are like the Veterans Center that provide resources to veterans, others are healthcare agencies, others that have resources for people who have served in war and want those kinds of resources, because readjusting to civilian life isn't always easy.
Right. Well, and one of the things that we were talking about is actually to discuss your experiences can somehow and sometimes be cathartic. And I know that WQPT has worked with the Library of Congress. We'll be doing that here again on Saturday in a way to share the stories so that America will never forget.
This is so important for researchers. It's primary research, what they call witness to history. And as the Library of Congress would say, it's your veteran story. you don't have had to have seen combat or had any kind of, you know, dramatic war story. If you were a supply sergeant, that's still your veteran story. You're still a veteran, and they want to have those stories as well as those who, you know, carried rifles and were engaged in war. So we're collecting those. We've been collecting those for the last couple of years, and we'll have another opportunity to do that on Saturday.
We talk a lot about the reception that Vietnam veterans received when they came back from overseas, Southeast Asia. Do you think that's changed? Do you think America learned a lesson? And do you think this is part of that lesson?
I think so. If you look at exhibits like this and the kind of reception that they get in the community, I know when this truck came down the road to the campus, that had a motorcycle guard with flags, and I'm told that there were people that were lining the highway waving flags and saluting the procession. So there's a recognition that there's still things that this country wants to make up for in saluting the veterans of the Vietnam War.
Closing ceremony will be here Sunday, 4 in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. What do you hope will be the impact after all those days, 4 days of this wall being available for the people of the cities to come see?
I hope that people that want to find some healing are able to do that with a visit to the Wall That Heals. That's why it's called the Wall That Heals. Bring their families, use it as an opportunity to talk to their kids and their other family members about this time in our history. It's still part of living history. So while people who are among us that were there can help us understand it, it's a good time to really talk about that. Dr. Art Tate, who also served in Vietnam, is going to be our keynote speaker for the closing ceremony. So I think that will be also very special.
The General Manager of WQPT, Mary Pruss. Well, in a moment, we're going to talk to 2 Vietnam-era veterans, one who served overseas during the war, to get the real personal information, the real impact that this wall has on them and their lives. But first, what's going on out and about? Here's Laura Adams.
This is Out and About for July 23rd through 30th. Hi, I'm Laura Adams. The Wall That Heals, a half-size replica of the Vietnam Veterans War Memorial in Washington, D.C., is coming to the campus of Western Illinois University from July 27th through 30th. The exhibit is free and open 24 hours a day. Come and celebrate during downtown Davenport's annual Street Festival, held in conjunction with the Bix 7 Run, featuring food, live music, arts and crafts, a family area, and lots of festival fun. And be sure to participate or watch as over 20,000 runners compete in the annual Quad City Times Bix 7 Run Walk, one of the top 10 running events in the United States, on July 29th, starting at 8 a.m. Enjoy antique lawn and garden tractors, plowing, tilling, and playing in the dirt at the AETA Working Antique Lawn and Tractor Show in Geneseo. Plus, there are free concerts at Lincoln Park on Tuesdays in Rock Island, Fridays live at 5 at RME, and Bass Street Landing on Thursdays. On stage, the thriller Wait Until Dark takes your breath away at the Bruner Theater on the campus of Augustana, while Circa 21 is bursting with song and dance in the musical Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. You can still catch Genesius Guild's production of Shakespeare's Henry V on the Lincoln Park stage July 29th and 30th. For more information, visit WQPT.org.
Thank you, Laura. There's more to this replica of the Vietnam War Memorial here at Western Illinois University Quad Cities campus. Saturday, there will be a Veterans History Project Day. That's where vets are invited to share their stories. Those stories are recorded and may be included in a nationwide Library of Congress initiative to preserve the memories of American veterans. As you can imagine, this replica of the Vietnam War Memorial sparks a lot of emotions. Those who fought in it, those who served during that period of time, those who died, and those who survived. We talked to 2 men who are deeply involved in veterans issues in the cities. Joining us is Frank Perez, is with the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 669, Mike Haney with the VVA Center, Chapter 299, sitting down and talking to us about the impact of the Wall That Heals. We've got a replica of the wall that's here. You've seen the real thing. It really is it's a moving experience, isn't it, for veterans?
Extremely. Extremely. I went to D.C. back in the early 80s, and when I was viewing some of the other monuments, I started asking questions where the Vietnam monument was at, and after I was told what direction, I was just more or less drawn to it, and I couldn't stop until I got to it and viewed it for myself.
Well, and Mike, you've seen it as well. I mean, this is a replica that's about half scale of the real memorial, but you're so involved in Honor Flight, getting people to go see the actual memorial. This really is kind of a nice alternative.
That's correct. One of the reasons Honor Flight even formed is because it's so difficult to get the veteran community out to D.C. to see the memorials that were in their honor, and that whether it's World War II, Korea, or Vietnam. And it's nice because there's a lot of veterans of Vietnam that really didn't want to see the names on the wall and make the trip to D.C., but when it comes to your backyard, then that might happen.
I mean, these names really do have a major impact. I mean, you've seen people search out particular names and then their reaction to it.
Oh, certainly. Almost everyone I see visiting the wall are looking for a particular name, and they want to put their hand on the wall, and they spend time and reflect, and it's quite a moving experience.
Well, and Frank, you were in Vietnam during some of the most serious fighting, 67 and 68, and what does the wall mean to you? Because you lost good friends, you lost comrades.
It's hard to put into words. I had a lot of good friends that were lost during some of the heaviest fighting in Vietnam. We took a lot of casualties, especially May 22nd, 1968. February 16th, 1968. October 9th, 1968. I go on and on and on. There's a number of individuals on that wall. I keep in contact with a few that we're planning a reunion out to New Mexico this year. It'll be the 50th anniversary of the ambush on May 22nd. So, looking forward to that.
Well, as you know, this replica is called the Wall That Heals. Do you think that is exactly what the wall's been doing for so many of the Vietnam era veterans?
I think it's brought the Vietnam veterans, our nation and the people back together. It has healed, you know, there was such a great separation before. You know, coming home, we weren't met with the greatest welcome. I know I couldn't wait to get home, wear my uniform, show my ribbons, my medals, and I was told, you know, by an officer, don't do that. Don't do that when you get home. You know, the only real welcome I had was my family and very close friends. Going to a party over in Davenport, and the night people were playing at this party. I had a good friend that I went to high school with. He had walked up to me, looked at me, I went to shake his hand, and he handed me a book. And he said, before you talk to me, I want you to read this book. And I looked at him and I said, Tom, what's up? We've been friends forever.
Well, Mike, do you think in a way that things have changed a lot? Because during Vietnam and after Vietnam, it seemed like a segment of the population blamed the war and the warriors. Right. And it seems like Americans have learned a lesson to not do that ever again.
What I've seen in the Vietnam era group is that when they returned, it was not a well-received homecoming, and they were bitter about that for a long time. And I think you're seeing now a change where they're proud of their service, of supporting the country, and I think when you see them active in the community, doing the events we do, you know, we're proud to say who we are and that sort of thing. So I think we have seen a change.
Well, like I said, you're with Honor Guard, but you're also, of course, with the Vietnam Veterans of America. And how important is that organization to make sure that the camaraderie of Vietnam-era veterans continues, but also that perhaps you steer them to the help that they need, or at least give them a little bit of the support that they may need?
Well, it's very important. One of the problems, a lot of people have ongoing issues that were caused by exposures there. So now they're aging. The youngest Vietnam-era vet is turned 60 years old now, and so they're having their own issues. So we try to support them as best we can. Probably one of the biggest problems is everyone else is also aging, so that the helpers are also having their own issues as time goes on, so it's becoming a little more difficult, but we try our best to support the community.
And we have seen, Mike, once again, is that we were seeing some of the veterans kind of keeping to themselves, not really joining organizations like, let's say, the VFW or the American Legion. Are you seeing that change as well over the last few years, that Vietnam vets are at least getting involved with the VVA or AMVETS?
Well, they are certainly doing that, yeah. I think it goes back to the bitterness that they were never welcomed back, and they formed their own organization. I believe it was early 80s when the VVA started, and they've gotten really into it. I mean, I know for 299, we're very, very active in the community.
And Frank, have you noticed that as well? I mean, do you see that as the veterans are aging, they're finding a reason perhaps to come together in organizations like
Some of them
VVA?
still have to be drugged, pulled in, coerced, you know. I mean, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but, and I've seen a need for them to join the organization. I had one gentleman at the end of our meeting 2 months ago come up and say, "Can I say something in front of the group?" And I said, "Oh, sure, no problem." So I gave him the microphone, and he turned around and looked at everybody and he said, "You know, when I got home from Vietnam," he said, "I wasn't proud to wear this uniform because of the way I was treated." He said, "Today," he said, "thanks to you guys, I'm proud again."
Yeah, right. Well, and that is so important, is that, once again, we were talking about blaming the warriors as well as the war, as opposed to supporting these guys who served overseas. Mike, I keep going back to seeing, you know, Vietnam veterans very proudly holding the flag, leading parades, being even grand marshals at some parades in the Quad City area. I mean, that just seemed to be a sea change over the last 25 to 30 years.
Correct. Our Honor Guard performs in a lot of parades, and they're usually at the front. So they are getting the respect that they maybe didn't have at the early get-go, and they're proud of that.
Well, like I said, we've got this replica wall that's being constructed behind us. It's going to be here through Sunday. 4 o'clock will be the closing ceremonies on a Sunday. Frank, what do you want people to see? I mean, you want kids to come? Do you want, because you sometimes think it's just for the veterans, but it's for society as a whole, is it not?
It's for everyone, anybody and everybody. Young and old. A lot of people weren't aware of what happened back then. I think things have opened up over the years a lot because of Hollywood, because of the movies they made. Platoon. We were soldiers. We were young ones and soldiers. The Deer Hunter. All that has brought some kind of reality and some kind of feelings to the public in general, to some of the veterans. A lot of it isn't quite the way it was, but it's still entertaining. And I think people coming here and looking at 58,000 plus names, you know, to put that in perspective, that would be like taking Moline and East Moline, every living person in East Moline and Moline, that is gone. You know, it's hard to believe.
It is. Well, and you took a quick look at some of the informational displays that they have on the trailer, the video boards as well. I mean, let's be honest, when you have kids involved, you got to have video involved somehow in order to relate. Did that bring back anything to you by taking a look at the mobile displays that they have here? Because it's more than just the wall that's being provided here at the Western Campus.
Yes, it is, and it's just the thing that caught my eye the most was the relics. When I was there in the early 80s, you know, people over the years have left memorabilia, medals, letters, you know, heartbreaking letters. It just goes on and on and on.
Well, we were talking about it being called the wall that heals, but in so many ways there's a lot more healing that needs to be done. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of people out there that have problems, issues today. You know, the homeless people, you know, there's still a lot of people out there that are homeless, and people look at them like, you know, why can't they go out and get a job?
Right.
I was able to do it, why can't they do it?
A number of mental health issues. There's always, as well, with the current conflicts as well, where you have issues of suicide, issues where veterans aren't able to talk about their feelings. I mean, that really is critical in some ways, is to seek the help, or that you must get the help to them.
And, you know, we're fortunate enough to have 3 programs in the area. We have 3 VSOs in the area that are helping these veterans on a regular basis, and helping them find and seek the help that they need to get on with their life.
Mike, you must see that as well. I mean, the key is there is help out there. If you feel like you are overwhelmed, there is help out there.
Well, to touch on one thing you said about they held it within, we find on our trips, on the Honor Flight trip, they get with their compatriots and they start telling stories and talking. They come home and tell their family things that they never have told them before. And I think that impact would be here. If they came to see this mini wall and they saw the names of their friends, I think a lot of them will open up and start discussing.
And that's really kind of important. Even somewhat 40, 50 years after the war, it is still cathartic and important.
Sure.
Frank, what do you want people to walk away with once they come here?
Just to remember. Remember the sacrifice. Remember the ones that didn't come home. The ones that survived, good. The families that didn't survive, just, we'll carry it with us, the ones that were there, to our grave. And remember the faces of the fathers, the brothers, the sisters, and the sons that never came home.
Frank Perez with the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 669, and Mike Haney with Chapter 299. Once again, the Wall That Heals will be open to the public night and day, 24 hours until late Sunday afternoon. Saturday, once again, is Veterans History Project Day, where veterans are invited to share their stories. And the last day of the exhibit is Sunday, with closing ceremonies at 4 o'clock. We hope to see you here, on the air, on the radio, on the web, and on your mobile device. Thanks for taking some time to join us as we talk about the issues once again on The Cities.
Public Affairs programming on WQPT is brought to you by the Singh Group at Merrill Lynch, serving the wealth management needs of clients in the region for over 25 years.